All right, thank you for stopping in. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this character, ShadowHawk, who I just did a profile on in terms of power ranking. I'll drop a link to that in this video. But this is a character that came from Image Comics. It's an African-American based comic book character, so I definitely wanted to kind of profile it, for those purposes. And overall, though, this is a very kind of troubling character. So I wanted to dig into him because there's a lot of meat on this bone here. Now, this is a character who debuts in 1992, and the backdrop or his origin story is kind of grim, right? He's an African-American district attorney in New York. So that sounds nice, but his backstory a lot darker than that. His brother is actively in gangs. He's hooked on crack, he's hooked on heroin, and the institution of gangs try to leverage that against, the man who becomes ShadowHawk. His name is Paul Johnstone. And so Paul, of course, resists because he is a righteous guy, and the gang retaliates by, beating him down. He takes a brutal beating, and they inject him with HIV. So this is early in the story that this is already a story very heavy mixed in drugs, at least in that capacity, the crack, which was heavy in the black community, coming out, definitely this is the time we were really kind of coming out of that, but a very big influence, right? So we had crack, we had the storyline of obviously HIV, AIDS is exploding within the black community, so it's already taken, a lot of time. Now, initially, my issue with that is, well, okay, it's working a lot of stereotypical themes, maybe some things that do need to get talked about, but it's kind of crushing all these themes kind of in one. But anyway, this character comes out and he is fitting right in the mold of this violent, grim, anti-hero kind of character. We're talking about the golden age of the Punisher over there at Marvel, Spawn, also at Image, Batman, darker stories like The Dark Knight Returns, the Killing Joke, which are really out there, and this is where he's coming in. So he's in that niche and embracing this extremely violent aspect. And the thing that above all those other things that I had mentioned, those aren't even things that make this character controversial. His most controversial aspect is that, as you can see up above me here, he will break the spine of criminals that he catches. He intentionally is paralyzing these criminals. So this is a level of brutality that kind of sets him apart from these other street level heroes. And this kind of plays further into some problematic depictions of black men with this anger and this vigilante justice, and this idea that this, you can be this successful DA who gets turned into this stereotypical trope of an angry black man, right? And we see it in this level of brutality that he's not allowing the justice system to work. On the back end, he's still dealing with his own mortality as his virus is spreading and it's destroying his body, and he's fighting crime throughout this entire time. So there's a lot going on just with him. Now, looking at his ops, the people that he's brutalizing, this is really playing into the idea of the super predator panic. We had talked about early in the Clinton days. This is who was the president in this time, and so the backstory was this idea of these black men being these irredeemable criminals, which then you can go out and break their spines. And his war on, the war on crime in New York was centered on these brutal tactics that real African or people of color were facing in cities not like New York. And we were seeing a rise of, Dirty Harry, the Death Wish. We were seeing some things in other cultures about this vigilante idea. So this whole idea was on the rise. Now, typically when I look at a character like this, I look for any, type of links to other media, and I always look for mythology, which isn't something I see in this character, but I see definitely, he fits firmly in this archetype of this vengeful beast in the shadows. Again, your Punisher, your Dirty Harry, your Batman. He is 100% tied into that as a black character, which makes it a little, dicey, because there is also this, you are the blaxploitation type of hero, guys who took justice into their own hands because the system was failing. So a lot going on with this character. If I had to kind of say overall what my opinion of it is, I still feel like overall this is probably more harmful than good. I don't know what the intentions of the creators or the writers were, but there's a lot. Maybe they're trying to handle some concepts that need to be talked about, but I don't know if they necessarily executed it the right way. So those are my thoughts, just some food for your subconscious, right? As I like to say, what was his character representing? What was he showing? And, how do we feel about those images? Thank you again for stopping in. If you have more to add, please do so in the comment section. But as always, I ask that you hit that like and subscribe.